We're going to move on to the conflict in Gaza. Israel media are reporting Israeli forces have declared a humanitarian pause for 7 hours on Monday. The truce, however, does not apply to parts of the Gaza town of Rafah, where Israeli troops are still engaging Hamas militants. More Gaza residents are also given the all clear to return by Israel to their homes. For more on the developments, we're joined by Fadi Elsalameen. Fadi, thanks very much for joining us here. We were talking earlier. What does this humanitarian pause mean to you? Do you think Israel is feeling the heat from the international community?
I think it's exactly that. I think Israel knows that, especially the Israeli Prime Minister, he knows that he has to pay a huge political price for him ignoring the peace process that John Kerry started. This is basically the one way to compensate for that. You cannot solve this by a temporary or a one-side solution. You have to make sure that your solution, your efforts as an Israeli Prime Minister are coordinated with the Palestinians and are coordinated with the regional players. The Israeli Prime Minister has been talking the talk, but not walking the walk of peace. That is not going to work. He must show serious efforts towards creating a Palestinian state. He must show that he's willing to lift the siege over Gaza and a complete humanitarian ceasefire.
Is it fair to call it a ceasefire if you still have ground troops in an area and there's still heavy fighting going on?
Absolutely not, because then you create confusion. You're not sure what is going on. Absolutely not. It is not fair to call it a ceasefire because it does not reflect a ceasefire. A ceasefire reflects that people know that their lives are not going to be in danger. There are still Israeli troops present in the area, and that is the ultimate definition of danger for people in Gaza.
We saw another school that was supposed to be a safe haven hit again today. What kind of message is that sending out?
That is a message that is Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has been telling himself and lying to the Israeli public, which is he thinks that he could solve this conflict militarily. You cannot kill your way out of a problem like this, especially a political problem like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and especially when the death toll is high and it's mostly women and children. You have to have a political solution.
Hamas, however, they broke the ceasefire the other day. They're being blamed internationally by the UN. They certainly bear a larger part of the responsibility as well. They had the tunnels, they went in and attacked. They took 3 teenagers, killed them several months ago. How do you react to this?
Look, the ultimate solution for a Palestinian-Israeli conflict is the creation of a Palestinian state, a strong Palestinian state. We have to give the Palestinian Authority the mandate over Gaza. Hamas is open, actually. They have formed a unity government with the Palestinian Authority, and they're saying, we have failed, you come in and rule Gaza. When you have a strong Palestinian state, you can have a monopoly on force, you can have a monopoly on border, and nobody can challenge you. That is what everybody should be working towards in the region. That should be Israel's #1 priority. Unfortunately, it has not been the priority so far. The Israeli Prime Minister's priority has been staying in power, and that is not going to serve Israeli interests or Palestinian interests in the region. He's actually acting very recklessly. He's putting Israeli interests at risk, and hopefully this will change.
What about the people of Gaza? They are fed up with this. We had a humanitarian individual on earlier talking about the amount of post-traumatic stress these children are going to carry for decades on. Is there a sense, Hamas won elections in Gaza, is there an effort by the Palestinian Authority to have more control there, perhaps wrest control from the Hamas militants?
From what I know, yes, right now what is being discussed between the various Palestinian factions and the Egyptians in Cairo is a way to bring the Palestinian Authority to have control over the Gaza Strip. That gives some legitimacy to bringing aid into the Gaza Strip, starting the process of rebuilding. But again, without a political solution, none of this is possible. People in Gaza are tired. People in Gaza, there's no electricity, no water. There's all kinds of diseases that are spreading. This is no way to live. The international community, you notice, even the American Jewish community in the United States are distancing themselves from Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu.
We've heard it from Israel as well. No one wants to see children suffer.
Absolutely. This is not the way to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It is not by killing women and children. I do believe that the Israeli Prime Minister will pay a price for this. I think the next step will be elections in Israel, and probably down the road, if there is a Palestinian solution to this, there will be Palestinian elections as well.
Fadi Elsalameen, thank you very much for joining us. We